Hello everyone, this is Julian, Paddle Master Coach, and today we're going to be talking about something that every single student of mine is always asked me. Which paddle is good for me? Which kind? How much should I spend? What do you think? What's your advice? So I'm going to review a little bit about the technical definitions of a paddle for you to understand a little bit about the concept. First of all, we have the shape of the paddle. And we have three shapes. We have the round shape, diamond shape, and teardrop shape. And each shape has a different options when we talk about the sweet spot. For example, this is a teardrop shape, right? So the sweet spot is always going to be a little bit higher on top of the paddle, right? So this is a paddle similar for someone who's a little bit more advanced and wants to get a little bit more power. The round shapes, which let me show you one of those, which is this one, as you can see, is much more round. The sweet spot is right below. So when we talk about sweet spot is when you strike that shot and you feel that it's right in the center of the paddle, right? Maybe 60% of the time you hit it right in the sweet spot. Depending how good you are, you're gonna be in the 60 to 80%. But so the sweet spot varies in between lower when there is a round shape, and it goes higher in between the teardrop and the diamond shape. Then we talk about the balance, which weight is good for me. And usually the weights goes in between 350 to 365 for women, and 365 and higher for men, which that's the standard, but at the end of the day, it's much more as a personal thing. If you like a lighter paddle, you should go more from the 350 through the 365, and if you like a heavier frame, you should go more on the higher end. In my case, I like not so heavy paddles because so many hours on the court, you ended up feeling the heaviness of the paddle. So that's pretty much my personal feeling. Then we have the composition. The composition is either fiberglass, meaning it's the top part of the paddle, right? Whatever goes in and whatever goes on top of it. So either you have fiberglass and graphite. At the end of the day, the fiberglass are much more the lower end paddles, and the graphites are the more higher end paddles, meaning the better rackets are always made of graphite. But within that, you have some very different options. On the graphite, the way the graphite fibers work is they're intertwined, and fiberglass, what happens is, I'm talking about fiberglass, it's a lower end paddle because at the end of the day, fiberglass, they're like intertwined fiberglass, they're fibers that the more you play, the more it starts spreading out, and you start losing the feel of the ball. So it's important for you to understand that if you buy a used paddle, which is made of fiberglass, that probably has some give on those fibers. So the feel is going to be a little bit different when you buy a new fiberglass paddle. Now, on the graphite, it's much more solid, much more stiff. It doesn't break apart so much. And when the graphite, you have the 12K, 16K, 18K, and that depends on how much stiffness is on the paddle and all that. But I don't want to go too much into details about the graphite because it gets a little bit complicated and a little bit technical, and at the end of the day, it won't make a difference for you. And then the final part, it's the foam that goes inside in between the two fiberglass plates or graphite plates is the foam that goes inside, right? And you have two types of foams. You have the regular foam, and then you have the EVA. The regular foam, it's if you stick your finger inside, you will feel like it's a little bit soft. So what it does to the paddle is the little give and take every time you hit the ball, right? The softer it is, that gives a little bit give and take. It's similar to a tennis racket or the strings in the racket. The looser the tension, it gives more, gives more than a stiffer tension. So the foam, the EVA is always going to be a little bit more stiffer than the foam. Also, EVA is a little bit better quality, meaning it lasts longer than the foam. So those are pretty much the technical aspects. So it's about the shape, Depends if you want to get more power. You will go with a diamond or a teardrop shape, which the sweet spot is up on top of it, and the weight is also on top of it. So when you hit that shot, that paddle will just go and gives you that extra hump on that ball for you to get maximum power on your shots. The other one is the balance, where you want to have the weight is either on the top or the bottom. For me, if you're a player that, in my case, I like the balance more at the middle of the paddle instead of the top, because for me, at the end of the day, it becomes very heavier. So I like to really, when I do volley drills with my students, it's a much more even balance, and I don't get too, my arms don't get too tired. So that's very important to understand. And at the end of the day, that's what I tell my students, is the feel. You have to feel it. Because I can tell you which one is a great paddle and all that, but at the end of the day, you have to play with it. And I give an example. One of my dear students, Julia, she's an amazing player, and she was asking me, she got one of the Adidas. It was recommended to her, it says, especially for women, ideal for women and all that, 350, 355, the weight and all that. She started to play and she didn't feel it. And she came to my lesson and asked me, oh my God, I just bought these 2 paddles and I don't feel them. Okay, they said, try one of the paddles that I have. So I gave her one of the, she tried the blade, which is, as you can see, it's a tear shape, way more on top of it. The Blade Pro, it's a little bit heavier. And she started to play and she started feeling an amazing feeling in that shot. Oh my God. And when she mentioned it to me, she said, oh, I'm not good enough for me to feel the difference. This is before she started trying different paddles. So whenever she started to try different paddles, she goes, wow, I feel the difference now. But you should say that you didn't feel that, you're not good enough. And I tell to everybody, you're good enough to feel the difference. So my suggestion to you is this: try them out. I can tell you which one is great. I can give you, the best, most expensive paddle at the end of the day, but you have to try them out. Go to your paddle club, go to your paddle shop, and ask them if you can demo for a few hours, 2 or 3 different paddles, and don't go crazy on reading specifications, all the technical aspects, because at the end of the day, it's more about personal feeling, how the ball feels in your paddle when you're playing with that specific paddle. And the final point is price. How much money you want to spend? I mean, there's some paddles that go up to $450, $460. On the lower end, you got paddles for $50. My suggestion to you, try to stay within the middle range, in between $150 and $350. The high-end paddles, the ones that the professionals use, they're more into the high-end, the 300s and 350. Those are just great paddles overall. The composition, the balance are great. But at the end of the day, feel them, play with them. That will be my professional suggestion to you. And please subscribe to our channel if you want to learn more about paddle. Share and like. And thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe. I'll see you soon.